Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to take another dip into the Atlas Seaboard Comics pool and look at the Destructor number 1 through 4. This was Atlas's attempt to make a typical superhero comic, like a street level, not too powerful, very workmanlike outfit as we can see. Not that flashy, but it kind of works. I kind of like that costume. But this was published in 1975, like all Atlas comics. Late 74, late 75, they were done. So let's take a look at the first issue. We got a cover here by Larry Lieber, the editor-in-chief of Atlas Seaboard, doing the pencils, and Wally Wood inking. So it looks a lot better than Larry Lieber's work normally does. That looks very Wally Wood. He inked it kind of heavily. Get a nice little splash page here for the kids. If you like superheroes, this has got everything you want. But look at the creative lineup on this issue. Written by Archie Goodwin, one of the greatest writers of the 60s, 70s, And pencil by Steve Ditko, and inked by Wally Wood. So that's a damn good lineup for a superhero comic in 1975. At the time, Marvel and DC, most of their superhero comics were just hacked out. They just got all these, guys that weren't that good for the most part. And also, I love when Wally Wood inks Steve Ditko. There's about a handful of comics throughout comics history where they teamed up. And it's just so nice to see, Steve Ditko's dynamic, fun superhero layouts with this nice Wally Wood polish on it. It really is a nice combo. So we start off with the birth of a hero. And takes place in this, I think it's a fake town, Harbor Town, New Jersey. That's where a lot of these stories are going to take place, at least where the hero is from. So there's a lot of crime in this town, and we see the syndicate here, run by Max Raven, this guy in the pinstripe suit. They're torturing some guy, and there's a knock on the door, and it's young Jay Hunter, who works for Max Raven, running little errands, and but he's got ambition. He's like, I don't want to just be a little, peon. I want to become a real mobster. Give me a real job. And Max Raven's thinking to himself, this kid's got big eyes. Maybe he's got too much ambition. So after Jay leaves, he tells his main enforcer, Blitz, to take care of him. Which is kind of weird. Just on a hunch, he just thinks, this kid's got too much ambition. We can't trust him. So yeah, most mobsters have ambition. They don't want to just be peons. So he goes, Jay leaves and goes to his father's house. His father is this brilliant scientist who I guess for years has been developing this serum that would heighten a person's senses to near animal sharpness and would maximize all of the body systems of a human. Even increase the healing factor, basically make a human at the height of its powers. So he basically all of these years he's kind of been like, son, I'm ready for human testing. I want you to be the first subject, which is kind of weird. I mean, it's his son that he loves. He could kill him, right? But I guess he's pretty confident that it won't. The son is tired of this shit. He's like, you've been spouting this crap since I was in diapers. I don't want any part of this stuff. I just want to make money the fast way. And the father has this whole idea that not only will he test the serum, but it'll actually become a superhero. And that'll be a great way to show off how well the serum works by doing these deeds of daring do, these good deeds. And he says, you can make something of yourself, son. And he's like, Dad, I don't want any of that crap. Goody two-shoes stuff. And then all of a sudden, while they're arguing, what's his face? Blitz kicks in the door. And he says, lay down, you're dead. I like this panel, how it's like shot from below. Almost seems like something Alex Toth would draw. Pretty nice. So the father bravely leaps in front of his son, but unfortunately, the human body doesn't stop bullets. So they go through him and get Jay too. So they're both mortally wounded. Blitz runs out of there, and with his last dying strength, the father crawls over, gets the serum, and pours it in Jay's mouth. And as he's dying, he says, look in the lab closet, but he dies before he can tell him what's in there. And he's like, Pop, no! And he passes out. So then a little while later, the cops and the medic show up. And they're like, oh, yeah, these guys are goners. But then Jay wakes up. They're like, he's got like 5 bullet holes in him. So they're just shocked. They're like, how can he be alive? And he's totally like strong. Doesn't even seem to be wounded. And Jay sees his dead father and has a total change of heart. He realizes what a turd he's been. And it's like, Pop, no, you shouldn't have had to die for me. Never did anything with my life. It should be me lying there, not Pop. So they give him an injection because he's like just freaking out. And the medic even notices that the bullets are kind of being pushed out of his body and the wounds are healing. So as he's passed out, he's kind of has, a dream recap of what we just saw. A little more abstract, but kind of weird. It's like, okay, we just saw this. Meanwhile, Max Raven hears that Jay survived through the grapevine. And his second in command, Lash, he basically tells Lash to make sure to kill Blitz so he can't finger him. So Blitz ends up in a harbor somewhere in the bay, dead. So there's nothing to tie Max Raven to the crime, and so he's not going to get caught. He's going to get away with it. Meanwhile, Jay in the hospital, Jay's back in the hospital, he escapes. He doesn't even check out. He just leaves the hospital. He's like, I'm fine. I got to get back to Dad's place. So he remembers that his father told him to go into that lab closet, and there's a superhero outfit waiting there for him. The father had it all planned out. So that night, he goes to one of Max Raven's criminal operations and just beats the crap out of all these syndicate boys. He's going to redeem himself in the eyes of his father, to the memory of his father, I should say. And then he torches the whole place, all this illegal merchandise. And then he calls up Max Raven, says, hey, it's Jay Hunter. I'm behind your warehouse being turned into an ash sheep. And of course, Max Raven's furious. He's like, so you're working with this Destructor feller? He doesn't realize they're the same person. Because, he knows Jay Hunter's just a little punk. So night after night, he continues to mess with Raven's operations. And every time he taunts him and calls him. So, of course, Max Raven's furious. So he says, get me Slaymaster. So we have a little interlude here. We see these criminals who have betrayed their bosses, trying to make their own little fiefdom. So, of course, they know that they've sent hitmen after him. But not hitmen, just one guy. They send Slaymaster. So we get to see Slaymaster in operation. And this guy's completely formidable. This house is like a fortress. It's got like 20 guys in it with guns. And he just totally breaks in, easy peasy, kills them all. total expert at killing. So now we cut back to the Destructor, his nightly raids against Max Raven's operations. And Max Raven finally is meeting Slaymaster, and he's basically like, this is the guy you gotta kill for me. So this is weird. All of a sudden, we have another recap of his origin and his powers. So odd. And once again, like in this abstract montage. So this is the third time in the same issue that we've kind of had a recap. Look, here's even more, the actual recap. How his father died and feeding him the serum. It's very weird. So Max Raven says, meet me at the Giant Novelty Company. It's one of his fronts. And so Destructor gets in there. And of course, Slaymaster's waiting for him. And Slaymaster seems to be getting the better of him. He's shooting him. Luckily, flesh wounds. But only because of his keen senses. He's figuring out that his powers almost give him an animal instinct. Where Slaymaster's this expert assassin, but it seems like just with his heightened senses, he knows when he's about to shoot and kind of twists out of the way. Not all out of the way, he's still getting shot. But, you know, no head wounds or anything. Because his healing power wouldn't do anything about that if his brains got blown out. Some really nice, crazy Steve Ditko positions. Look at that. Nobody would draw like that. A superhero doing those crazy, twisted positions. So he's learning more about his powers. You can hear better. You can see better. You can even feel vibrations on the floorboards to get a bead on the Slaymaster. I love when Steve Ditko just does all these little panels of action. And so he gets the best of Slaymaster. But Slaymaster's pretty strong, so they start having this a desperate battle. And then it just cuts away before we find out who wins. We see Max Raven's office, and he's got some flunky saying, hey boss, it's Slaymaster. So he's like, come in, let's celebrate our victory. And then Slaymaster knocks out the flunky, takes off his mask and the coat. It's Destructor, so I guess he won. And then he's roughing up Max Raven, and he's about to take off his mask to show him that he's Jay Hunter. And then all of a sudden, these other mobsters, including Lash, the second in command, come in and just totally assassinate him. And they're like, I just made a deal with the boys up north to take over. So Destructor knocks all those guys out. And he finally, you know, Max Raven's dying there. And he gets to take off his mask and show him. He's like, it can't be. So I don't know why. He just kind of leaves all these guys. He doesn't arrest them or kill them. He just says, okay, my job's done here. And then the last three panels, very Wally Wood inks there. We see him making a vow at his father's grave, saying, I'm going to continue. I'm going to fight all the criminals. Take them all down in your memory. Okay, next we got number 2. Another Larry Lieber cover, this time inked by Frank Giacoa, even though it's unsigned. We're already seeing not as good. There's some pretty crude stuff. But luckily inside, the art team is the same. The writing and art team is the same. So Destructor is continuing his nocturnal activities, fucking with the Syndicate every chance he can. Now Lash is in charge. He's there at the docks. Death Grip. That's the title of this issue and the villain. So we see him using his powers, and then he confronts Lash, starts roughing him up, holds him over the water, and he basically says, who's the capo de capos? And He spills the beans. Lash is all like, the boss of all the bosses, his name's Big Mike Brand. He's at his winter place in New Mexico. It's all I know. They're going to kill me for this. And he says, well, it gives you a reprieve from me. And then he walks away again. He doesn't do anything to Lash, really, except rough him up. Then this guy comes out of the shadows, and he says, bravo, Lash. That was a wonderful performance. You told him just what we wanted you to tell him. Meanwhile, we find out that the Destructor, after he's done using his powers, kind of is very weak and just collapses into bed. And in his sleeping state, he has another recap. We just saw this 3 times last issue. But now we see it all again. I mean, this is a second issue at least, so it might have a good reason to be there. But so it turns out that that guy who came up to Lash, he's this guy, Death Grip. And he's a bigwig in the Combine. That's almost like a part of the syndicate. That's like the super secret part of the syndicate that are kind of really in control. How we find out that they fed Destructor this information because Big Mike Brand is pretty much retired. In fact, he wants to go straight and like name names. He's feels regret about his life of crime. But of course, Destructor doesn't know this. They figure it's a great plan because they're going to get Destructor to take out the guy they want to take out. Lash and Death Grip get in this argument and start actually having a fight, which is pretty dumb on Lash's part because Death Grip's got this like amazing power hand that can melt metal. And he totally kills Lash. So, Destructor's he's pretty poor, so he's got to hitchhike to New Mexico all the way from New Jersey. And he starts his journey. Death Grip, meanwhile, is also headed there on a plane, and he's talking to his syndicate bosses. And he's got a personal grudge against Big Mike Brand, but they're like, nah, let Destructor do it. That's the whole plan. There'll be no ties to us. And like a typical villain, he just wants to do it himself. He's got a grudge, and he wants to be the one to kill Big Mike Brand. So finally, I guess it's a week later, Jay's made it to New Mexico. And he does this elaborate scheme to befriend the daughter of Big Mike Brand, Angela. He throws a snake in her path and then rescues her from the snake. And then all of a sudden, this guy shows up with a gun on him. Kind of a weird character. His name's Pepe. He looks like Pancho Villa, but he talks like Jimmy Cagney because he learned how to speak English from watching old gangster movies. He works for Big Mike Brand, who's in this little Jeep here, or dune buggy. And he hears that Jay has a New Jersey accent, and he's like, hey, I'm from New Jersey. I'd like the cut of your jib. And the daughter's like, oh, you have to come back and have dinner with us. So they head back to his ranch. And it looks like they're starting to like each other, these two youngins. So basically, Mike Brand offers Jay a job. He's like, you should come work for me. I need another driver. You're good with cars. And I guess, though, even though Angela seemed to like Jay, she's got a boyfriend already. And it's this guy, Glenn, with his nice jerry curl perm, looking pretty suave for the 70s. So that night, Jay puts on his Destructor outfit and goes snooping about, trying to figure out stuff. He finds in Mike Brand's office, he finds papers, and he finds out the truth. He finds out that Mike Brand is not the boss of bosses. Maybe he was a long time ago. And he realizes he's been being used by Lash. He almost gets caught by Pepe, but he escapes. And so Death Grip finds out about all of this. And he says, oh, now I can do it my way. Because Jay knows about the whole plot. Maybe he won't kill Big Mike Brand, so I'm going to have to do it. I just want to point this out. I just love Steve Ditko. Just doing silly superheroes. So we find out that Glenn is actually Death Grip. Seems kind of far-fetched. And all this time he's been romancing her. He's had this rubber mask on and this giant metal hand he's hidden under a glove. But whatever. So Jay realizes that Big Mike's a pretty good guy. How he's going to turn state's evidence and all that. So he goes back as the Destructor and goes after Death Grip. He's in a junkyard and he's got Angela like in a car all ready to throw into one of these car crushers. Damsel in distress style. So they have a really fun fight. Fun Ditko wood art. Weird contortions of the body. And Death Grip's looks like he's about to fry the Destructor with his hand, his special hand. But then the magnet from the whatever you call those things, the auto crusher, grabs his hand and throws him into the auto crusher to his death. So let's get to number 3. Once again, Larry Lieber, Frankie Okoye cover. Not really worth talking about. But we do see the villain of this issue, the Huntress. So, and this issue is, it says Steve Ditko artist, no inker. But according to the Grand Comic Database, this is inked by Frankie Okoye. And it looks pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look Wally Wood good, but what does? But I like it. It's pretty nice for a Ditko superhero comic, you know? Once again, Archie Goodwin scripting. So we see this guy, Dr. Shroud. I guess he's a bigwig in the Combine. He's the one who gave Death Grip his hand. He's like some super scientist guy. And they're reviewing film. I guess there was film cameras there. And they're looking at films of the fight. And like, what are we going to do about this Destructor guy? And he says, let me introduce you to the Huntress. Very Craven-like, female Craven. And he, with his scientific acumen, he's given her a laser lash. So she's quite formidable with her 2 pet lions or whatever they are. And her laser lash. So she's gonna take care of the Destructor. I must call it the Deconstructor. That would be a very different comic. So once again, the Destructor's skulking about this New Mexico ranch, trying to get more information. I like this here. He pulls down a tree and flings himself over the fence. Just a great Ditko body there and here. So Angela now knows about that her father was a mobster all these years. You know, Death Grip, you know, getting kidnapped by him. She figured it out. And he's trying to tell her that he's trying to be good, try to square things away. But she's just furious with him for lying to her for all those years and for being a mobster. She just thought he had all those bodyguards to stop kidnappers and stuff. He's not doing too good, Big Mike Brand. He's getting old. So the next morning, he's continuing his look for the bigger fish. He's looking for associates of Death Grip, basically. And all of a sudden, this gas comes out of the floor. It's the Huntress. Excuse me. With her assistant, Lobo. This guy's kind of goofy looking. He's like a half man, half beast creature. I think it's just a dude, though. Excuse me. So, she's captured Destructor. She's got him in this cage, and she's gonna like basically do this presentation for the syndicate guys and the Combine guys. I think the plan is she's gonna kill him in front of them all. But with his animal-like powers, he breaks out of the cage and escapes. But it's weird. There's this weird, like, valley or large ravine right outside. That's going to be the hunting ground where the huntress will hunt him down, her and Lobo. We realize from the dialogue that, she totally has no respect for Lobo, thinks of him as a lackey. Also is all like, don't ever touch me. You don't have enough physical attraction to ever be allowed to touch me. So this poor guy, big flunky. So she runs down into the valley with her 2 lions, and the lions attack Destructor. And he's not doing too good against them. I love this panel here, just like, whoa. Even though Steve Ditko still hasn't learned how to draw animals very well. It's sad. He can never draw animals. All those decades. But he loses the lions by jumping into this pool. And then Huntress shows up and uses her laser lash against him. So he's on the run. He's already been savaged by her lions. He's kind of weakened from that. And now she's totally going at it. But he does get the best of her. And she drops the laser lash. They're both reaching for it. And then Lobo hits him on the head. Huntress is furious with Lobo. She's like, how dare you interfere with my hunt? She throws these bombs. I guess these little tusks are explosive. Throws them where she saw the Destructor jump into the forest. Or in these bushes. And then Lobo disobeys her. He just says, I'm going to prove I'm man enough for you. I'm going to bring him in by myself. And he runs ahead. And he sees this cave. And he knows that, I think he followed the blood trail into the cave. Yeah, there's a blood trail. And he goes up to the cave and he starts shooting into it. It's so sad. He says, now she's got to love me. No, she doesn't, Lobo. I don't think she ever will. But then he says, oh, the other side of the cave, he couldn't have escaped. There's no blood trail. And that's because, he's got the healing factor. So he leaps out at him, knocks out Lobo. I like how his costume is all shredded. Like, he really looks like he's gone through the ringer. This isn't just like some easy walk in the park for him. It's like, he's really desperately fighting this battle. So I guess there's a force field around this weird valley. And he finally realizes that, like, it's a backdrop. So it's this weird little arena. And it has all these holograms and painted backgrounds. It's not really a valley. He gets zapped by the force field. And then Huntress shows up and starts strangling him with her lash. And she says, grovel for me, beg. And he looks like he is. And we see all these syndicate guys are watching this on a TV screen. Their entertainment. And what he does, he is crawling, but he's basically bringing the laser lash close enough to the force field so they short each other out. And she goes plummeting to her probably doom. But it's a comic book, so who knows. He breaks through the wall because he realizes it's all an illusion. And he just starts tearing through these syndicate guys. Look at this. He just looks like he's just savage in this panel. It's like Conan the Barbarian. And then once again, I guess he's got to lick his wounds. So he doesn't arrest any of these guys, but he just jumps out the window and escapes. The next day, the mob sends people to the bus station and the train stations looking for anyone who's all bandaged and has all these scratches. And of course, Jay has his healing factor, so he looks right as rain and slips right by him because they don't know what he looks like. So that's number 3. And now the last issue, number 4. Larry Liebe and Frankie Okoa really going full on Kirby here. This looks like bad 70s Kirby if he was, they didn't quite have the skills to pull it off. So now we got a new creative lineup. Written by Jerry Conway. Still pencils by Steve Ditko, but we have inks by Alan Milgram. And not so great. It's kind of muddy inks. So I guess kind of weird. It kind of jumps from last issue. I guess the Destructor has been hiding out in these caves in New Mexico. Just trying to, like, find some peace. Get his head together. But these two guys, these kind of mercenary type guys, they somehow tracked him to this cave and are hunting him. But he gets the best of them. The Destructor does. Knocks out one of them. The other guy basically explains how, yeah, the Combine's got a contract out for you still. And we were trying to collect the bounty. And then he pulls a gun out. And he's about to shoot the Destructor. But then this force bolt comes out of nowhere. Looks like it fries him. And it's this dude here. So he's like, who are you guys? And he's like, we're the outcasts. You will remain exactly where you are, or my friend the Eye here will demolecularize you. I think I said that right. Demolecularize you like he did your enemy. And Destructor says, fuck you. I just fought these guys. I'm not going to be your captive. So the Eye tries to blast him. And he kicks him, knocks him out. So the leader here, his name's Cronus. He says, Sister Siren, use your dream song. And it's typical, you know, Siren. She sings her song and it knocks him out. But look at this here, how Ditko draws her. That is obviously he was using one of those blow-up sex dolls for a model. That is so, looks like one of those 70s blow-up sex dolls so much. Really odd. So it knocks out the Destructor. And Kronos says, take him to the secret citadel, my brothers. Even though Sister Siren's there. So he wakes up in the secret citadel. The Eye says you have to remain, and he slugs the Eye. But I don't know why they don't knock him out again for being so belligerent. But Kronos shows up. And he says, you're one of us. You're an outcast too, because of your powers. And he says, I'm no freak. The hell I am. And he attacks Kronos. And Kronos waves his hand. And I love this. Basically sends him to this other dimension that's very, you know, Steve Ditko's the master of doing that. These crazy little creatures. I wish there was more panels of the Ditko dimension, you know. But then he comes back to reality. Kronos brings him back. And he realizes maybe he should just listen to these guys. So apparently the secret citadel, Kronos fills them in. It was started by these scientists who disagreed with the nuclear policy of America. In fact, they helped build the first atom bomb in 1944. But they didn't like what was happening after, you know, the stockpiling of nuclear weapons. They wanted to find a haven away from this crazy world that was intent on killing itself. So they found the secret citadel. But the thing is, they needed some multimillionaire to finance it. They didn't have the money. So this guy Caldwell did just that. But pretty soon he starts making demands. He's like, guys, this is my money. I want you to build a nuclear reactor down here. That's the wave of the future. And fossil fuels are almost tapped out. And of course, these scientists who built this whole thing to escape, you know, nuclear energy and shit, they're just like, you can't do that. They're getting this argument. Now, this is where the comic gets very interesting. So, you guys probably all know about Steve Ditko and his, like, he would leave a comic if he disagreed with the philosophy and or politics of the writer. But apparently he drew this comic, but in his own sneaky way, he does this thing where he obviously doesn't like where Jerry Conway's heading with this no nukes stuff. And the fact that this guy who paid for it, he has every right, because, Steve Ditko believes in like Ayn Rand philosophies. So who are these people to tell him what he can do with his money? How dare they? So look how he draws them. Sweating, fanatical looking, this guy's fat and ugly. All shorthands that Ditko has used before to let you know who the bad guy is. The hero is always very attractive, very cool and collected. The bad guys are like this. And look at Caldwell, a distinguished old man, totally keeping his head, even though they're having this argument. He's even admitting in the dialogue, he's saying, I see the future when there's no more oil left and we need nuclear energy. I see the future and I wish to exploit it. So it's not like he's supposed to be this great guy. He's a greedy capitalist, whatever, who doesn't care. But the way Ditko draws them, it's so interesting. So I don't know if this was full script or Jerry Conway had all the dialogue ready for Ditko and he didn't like it. So he did his own thing with the art to let you know where his sympathies lie. It's very strange, very interesting. So basically the scientists have to go along with Caldwell. He basically owns the lease on their this place. And then look at them here. They're just... And none of them are saying anything particularly evil. You'd think they would be by the way their faces are so distorted with rage. As if they're these horrible villains who are like, crush them all. But she's basically just saying, we have to go along with it. We have to stay and fight. She's not like saying like, we have to kill him and murder him. But Ditko makes you think she is this horrible person. So I guess they build their nuclear reactor and it's built badly. I guess the technology wasn't that great back then. And the radiation leaks out of it. And all of the scientists' children over the years are born with deformities. They're also born with superpowers, but none of them know that yet. So one day Caldwell comes back to check out his reactor with his two flunkies, and they all meet him with steel pipes and beat him to death. And of course, they look totally villainous. Even though some would say, hey, he basically totally irradiated and mutated all of our children just because he's a greedy fuck who didn't plan out his reactor good enough to save some pennies, probably. They kill the flunkies, too, in a mad rage. When they're done, they actually say they regret what they did. Because, Jerry Conway doesn't think these people are evil. Steve Ditko does, though, and draws them as such. They were planning on turning themselves into the authorities, but the authorities never came. The only people who knew where the secret citadel was Caldwell and his two flunkies. Even his board of directors didn't know. So they just figured, okay, we'll just continue our mission. Most of them died off, and their children took over, and they all have these powers. And now it's interesting. All of a sudden, now he starts drawing the outcasts even more grotesquely. As if, and I don't know if this is why. Basically, the Destructor has come around and said, yeah, maybe I do belong here. You people are misfits like me. I thought the whole world was out to get me at one time. Now I understand better. You've got to give people a chance. So that's what Jerry Conway wrote. But look at this. All the outcasts are looking at him as if they're sneering behind his back. Check out this guy. What a sap. What a moron. He's even pointing to him with his thumb what an idiot. So when I was reading this last night, I thought, wait, have they been blind? Are they going to attack him now? It's no. Steve Ditko just threw that in. It doesn't make any sense. They're not mocking him. He's giving this very heartfelt speech. But Ditko draws them as if they're saying, oh, anyone who believes in that's an idiot, Oh, crazy. I should tell you about this little interlude. Apparently, 10 miles away, there's a secret U.S. military base underground where they're going to illegally resume atomic testing underground, because, you know, that's been outlawed by Congress for a long time at this point. So back to the outcasts and the Destructor. All of a sudden, the whole secret sanctuary is a shockwave goes through it. Sorry, the secret citadel, because the U.S. Army just blew up that atom bomb 10 miles away. Yes, Alan Milgram inking is just so, I don't know, kind of ugly. It's just like muddled and, yeah, like the way he draws this rock wall texture. I don't know. It's not very good. So all the radiation seeps through the stone and bathes them all in a radiation, including the Destructor. And all of a sudden, he feels this burning in his bloodstream. He realizes that the radioactivity is mixing with the chemicals in his blood from the serum his father gave him. And he shoots a force blast. It takes a chunk out of the wall, and then he passes out. So when he wakes up, he basically is like, yeah, I guess my dad's serum was affected by this radiation. And so the outcasts are like, we may have a new soldier for our army, since now he's one of us. But of course, Ditko draws them as if they're planning something horribly insidious. Really, what we find out, they've convinced him to go to the army base and stop them from blowing up more atom bombs, not just for the sake of the secret citadel, for the world. And they, you know, at first he's just like, I can't believe I'm letting you talk me into this. But he realizes that, hey, it's not they shouldn't be blowing up atom bombs illegally. So he's going to go with his new powers. They're sending him off. He's going to take care of business. And once again, the dialogue, they're not saying, I hope he murders every single one of those bastards. They're saying, oh, God, if Jay Hunter fails, then the secret citadel is doomed, and so is the world. So, but Ditko draws them as if they're plotting some horrible, evil plot. So interesting, the dissonance in this comic between the writing and the art. Where I have a feeling Ditko's probably not into the no nukes people, too. So, because, you know, it kept America strong, having nuclear bombs to fight communism. So he probably thinks these guys are totally wrong and bad. So he draws them as such, even though the writing doesn't indicate that at all. I don't know if I've ever read a comic like this where the artist was warring with the writer, was undermining him at every turn. It says, next issue, The Man with the Golden Bomb. What a dumb title. But we're never going to see that issue because this is the last issue of the Destructor. And pretty much Atlas Comics was done right around this time. So there you have it, guys. The Destructor, number 1 through 4. I hope you enjoyed them. I know they're pretty much just goofy superhero comics, but I don't know. Have a Ditko and Wood Art and a couple of them. And of course, I love my Atlas Seaboard comics. I have almost every issue. And yeah, some of them aren't that great, but I just want them to be a complete collection. I'm fascinated by this company. Ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated with Atlas Seaboard. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you here next time at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.